President Biden is condemning Georgia's brand new voting law. He's accusing Republicans there of trying to, quote, deny people the right to vote. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp fired back at the president. He accused Mr. Biden of not reading the bill, adding, quote, I won't back down from keeping Georgia elections secure, accessible, and fair. Civil rights groups are already challenging the law in court. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe has more from Atlanta.
Outrage today in Atlanta over the state's new voting law.
So we're taking our fight to the streets, we're taking it in the courtrooms, and we're taking it in our communities.
The controversial bill, signed in private by Republican Governor Brian Kemp Thursday night, prompted this chaotic scene as a state representative who tried to get into the ceremony.
Are you serious?
No, you are not.
Was arrested and dragged from the Capitol.
Significant reforms to our state elections were needed.
But experts found no widespread election fraud in the state. The new law expands early voting days statewide, but also enacts stricter ID requirements on absentee ballots, reduces early voting for runoff elections, and makes it a crime to deliver food and drinks to people waiting in line to vote. Long lines are common in urban, predominantly black parts of the state. President Biden blasted the new law today and said the Justice Department is looking into it.
It's an atrocity. You don't need anything else to know that this is nothing but punitive, designed to keep people from voting. You can't provide water for people about to vote. Give me a break.
Georgia's freshman Senator Raphael Warnock went further.
This is Jim Crow redux in new clothes.
But Republican State Senator Butch Miller said he still hears from constituents concerned about election results.
We have a lack of confidence in the ballot box and the integrity of the ballot box, and we have to restore that.
Would Republicans be doing this if Donald Trump had won in November?
Let me look at my crystal ball.
Late today, Governor Kemp responded to the president saying Mr. Biden and the national media, quote, are determined to destroy the sanctity and security of the ballot box. President Biden was the first Democratic candidate to win Georgia since 1992. Governor Kemp is up for re-election next year. Lana?
Ed, thank you. For more, I'm joined by Mark Niesse. Mark is a Georgia government reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Mark, thanks for being here. So now that Governor Brian Kemp has signed the bill into law, what options do opponents still have?
Well, they can sue, and we've already seen the first lawsuit filed in federal court just hours after Governor Kemp signed the bill into law. This lawsuit, filed on behalf of 3 voting rights groups, says that the law is unconstitutional, basically because it's not justified, they say. They say, you know, the reason for the law was based on the 2020 election, and there was no fraud, so therefore the law should not do anything to reduce voting access.
So what has been the public reaction to these new rules, how quickly they were passed and then signed into law?
You'll find that it's very divided among people's political affiliations. You find Democrats more resistant to this bill and its restrictions and new requirements for voting, but Republicans are thankful for a bill that, in their view, does some things that make what they think will make elections more secure and restore their confidence, knowing that absentee ballot signatures won't be used and will be replaced by absentee ID, such as driver's licenses or state ID cards. But I think everybody in general, if you talk to the everyday person in Georgia, the voter, they want voting access. They appreciate that no excuse absentee voting will remain in Georgia and that there will still be 3 weeks of early voting before general elections.
Well, Mark, I also wanted to talk to you about one of the new rules in the bill, which allows the state election board to take over a county elections board if the state feels that it needs to intervene in that county's election process. Does the law actually lay out what circumstances would need to take place in order for that to be appropriate, or does the state just really have a pretty broad authority when it comes to being able to take over a particular county?
The state does have broad authority, but there are some processes that they have to go through before they can take over a county elections board. The state would have to do a performance review and evaluate how well a county has done before taking them over, or there would have to be 3 violations of state elections law within the last 2 elections before they could intervene.
And Mark, one of the other things that we heard in the national conversation about this law is the ban on third-party groups being able to hand out food or water even to voters who have been waiting in lines for long periods of time at polling places. Talk to us a little bit about why this ban was put into place and how people feel about it.
Well, it was put into place because the supporters of this bill feel like the 150-foot boundary around a voting location should be just for voting. They don't want to have the possibility of any undue influence by campaigns or any politically motivated people of giving anybody anything of value, even if it's a cup of water or a hot dog or popcorn, anything that could influence their vote. They don't want that to occur near a polling place. So that's what motivated it. And of course, while food or drink while waiting in line is a small thing in the voting process, you hear a lot of voters say, come on, our vote isn't going to change just because we're handed a cup of water or a Gatorade. But on the other hand, you do have legislators who want to eliminate any doubt that anybody would be influenced while they're about to vote.
All right, one last question for you, Mark, because it was kind of an oddity. Georgia State Representative Park Cannon was arrested after knocking on the governor's door during a signing ceremony for the bill. What can you tell us about the latest on that case?
Sure. She is charged with 2 crimes. She was brought to the Fulton County Jail and released. She says she did nothing wrong. She was just knocking on the governor's door as he was holding a signing ceremony for the bill and an announcement of the bill that was being live streamed. So she feels like it was an overreach on the part of police to arrest her, a state representative, in the Capitol as she was trying to gain access to the bill signing by knocking on the door. Now, police, they say they asked her to stop and she was being disruptive in their view, and she continued knocking on the door. So the latest is she's out of jail. She is charged with these crimes, and we will see how police and prosecutors will move forward. In a previous case involving a current Congresswoman, Nikema Williams, she was arrested a couple of years ago during a protest at the Capitol, and those charges were later dropped.
All right. Mark Niesse, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.